Hello, everybody. I'm Julia Kavanaugh, and I am a teacher at the Postpartum Doula Academy.
And I'm Nancy Ham, and I am a teacher at Gentle Ventures, and I teach newborn care specialist.
That's right. And we also both teach at each other's at the other schools as well.
We
So
do.
you'll see us in both. Um, Before we get into this week's episode, we just want to give a little acknowledgement that if you feel inspired or connected to the material, please reach out to us to see how you can be a part of this if you're interested in becoming a postpartum doula or a newborn care specialist, because we can help with that.
And
Uh,
please like and subscribe to
to
us,
our channel.
to,
Yeah.
to our channel. I'm not used to saying that, and I feel real funny saying that. It's like I'm begging for likes and subscriptions,
That's right. That's
but
right.
I
Well,
am.
no, because it's when people like and subscribe, it helps us get our material out to more people.
Absolutely.
And and that's really what we're trying to do is just make this available to as many people as possible so that we can
Yes.
be of service.
Yep.
And on that note, Nancy, um, it's Black History Month, and I'm I think it's really important that we take a moment to talk about one of the demographics of the people that we serve, who are, the African American community and
Mhm.
people of color, and look at the ways in which that demographic is really underserved in our field as newborn care specialists and postpartum doulas. Um, the postpartum period and the birth period are really tumultuous for many people who are people of color, and we need to acknowledge this ongoing crisis that is happening in our country.
And I did not even realize all of these facts that we're going to talk about.
Yeah,
It shocked me to my core.
yeah,
It makes me it makes me incredibly sad
yeah,
that these women are going through some of the things that they're going through just because of the color of their skin.
yeah,
So we, in our research, we found that the Black community has higher risks in pregnancy and birth,
yeah,
and it is like about 3 times higher than a Caucasian woman.
yeah,
And there are some reasons, none of which are good as far as I'm concerned, but we're going to talk a little bit about that. So the higher mortality rates, like I said, are about 3 times higher. And that doesn't make a difference whether you are a wealthy, educated Black woman.
mhm,
You still are treated less,
yeah.
what do you want to say, professionally than a
Yeah,
less privileged white woman.
yeah, yeah,
So that's the first thing that we found with the higher mortality rates.
yeah. And we also found that the disparity, there is like this implicit bias in the healthcare system. So there are studies that have pointed to like Black women, women of color, not being listened to, and having their pain be dismissed by professionals. Um, which could be one reason why the mortality rate is so much higher. And studies have shown that healthcare providers sometimes underestimate the African Americans, their pain levels, which leads to delayed or inadequate treatment of their pain.
And let me just add this to that.
Yeah,
I don't know anybody stronger than Black women.
yeah,
All they've gone through, they are the strongest of. And why, when they say they're in pain, professionals don't believe them or say it's nothing. That just blows my mind. It just blows my mind. I was thinking, I don't know if this comes up later or not, but this has to all start in medical school.
Yes.
This has to be taught in medical school, and I don't know if they teach it or if it's just overlooked. If I don't have any idea because I'm not a doctor and I don't know anybody who is that I could ask. But this is something that needs to be enforced in medical school, that the color of your skin does not matter.
No, and I was on a discussion board speaking with other doctors and midwives, and it was just for birth professionals
Uh-huh.
a few years ago, and one of the doctors said that in medical school, and she was in her 40s, so I'm assuming medical school would have been like 20 years ago for her.
Probably.
Um, she said that in medical school, they were actually taught that women of color had a higher pain tolerance.
Wow.
Now, I don't know where she went to medical school, um, but it was in the United States. And
That's, yeah.
and that's just it's yeah, thank you, Nancy, for the way
Yeah.
that
Yeah. So because they've got a higher pain tolerance, we'll just ignore them.
right,
For,
and it's not even true.
yeah.
Right. Right. But it's just like it's that recent. It's that recent that we have doctors who are practicing who were taught a mistruth
Right.
in medical school.
Well, so then the other thing is they have a higher rate of pregnancy complications.
Yeah.
So Black women have higher rates of preeclampsia and eclampsia and postpartum hemorrhage and cardiovascular issues. And they all life-threatening. They're all life-threatening. And they're more likely to have conditions like hypertension and diabetes, and that also includes pregnancy risks.
It increases the pregnancy risks.
Oh, yeah, it increases. I'm sorry, did I say includes? Yeah,
Well, I mean,
yeah,
it's all part of the same topic. Yeah,
yeah,
it's and I think that all of those things that we mentioned that you just mentioned, the higher rates of all of those issues can go back to what was mentioned above about these women being neglected,
yeah,
like being put to the side, like, okay, we'll come to you later because your pain tolerance, I was taught your pain tolerance is higher, or um or you're it makes no sense to me. It makes no sense to me, but
yeah.
uh, that's what we need to heal and work on
Mhm.
as a community. Um, So the next bit that we have is their access to quality prenatal care is really delayed and inadequate in the majority of the communities that serve women who are pregnant. Um, and this can lead to complications being undiagnosed. There are systemic barriers that are inside of our system as a culture that prevent them from getting proper care. And that could be health insurance gaps, that could be transportation issues, um, and provider shortages. It can impact their access to early care and continuous care.
Wow.
Yeah,
No, so this is not because the Black women are not going in for their prenatal check,
that's right.
right? That's just
That's
what's
right.
happening to them in general. Gotcha.
That's right.
Well, they also have a higher C-section rate.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how it can get much higher because right now,
Yeah.
all women, no matter of color, you need a C-section. We're going to
Oh,
schedule you for a C-section. You know,
they're
it's just an ongoing thing, and that's getting worse. The C-section rate is going up, and that doesn't even include the Black women. So it's an all general thing. But if you have a C-section, of course, you know that you have higher risks of complications and infections and longer recovery times.
right.
And in
That's
some cases, C-sections are even performed unnecessarily. So the C-section might be scheduled because the doctor is going to go on vacation. And sometimes they delay the C-section too much, and that also causes more complications for the baby and for the mother.
that's right.
So these things are just, they're not acceptable. They're just not acceptable. And we
No.
need to we need
Be aware.
we
Awareness
need to
is
be aware of it. Yeah, I'm not sure there's anything I can personally do about this, but I can be aware of it and I can share,
yeah, we
get
can
the word
talk
out.
about it and we
Yeah.
can say this isn't right. And we can advocate with our clients for themselves. We can go with them to doctor's appointments. If any of us have clients who are people of color, we can go with them to doctor's appointments if they would like a second person
Well,
to
and you're
do
a
that.
doula.
Yes,
And
and
very
right.
seldom are they can ask their NCS to go with them, but
Thank
a
you.
doula, absolutely they're going
Thank
to.
you. Thank you,
Yeah,
Amanda.
that could be
Yeah,
something a doula offers to do. Yeah,
absolutely.
maybe I don't know if doulas offer that. That's this Julie is part of the
Yeah, so not
program.
typically. We don't typically usually we do a few, if you're a birth doula, you do several postpartum visits to like educate and talk about, sorry, not postpartum, pre-birth visits to
Hmm.
talk about planning for the birth, and then you're there for the birth itself. But I have gone with clients to their OBGYN visits to see the baby and inside the womb and to do the
Yeah.
checkups.
So maybe
Um,
that's something we can add on to our postpartum class.
yeah,
Would be this is something that a doula might do,
yeah,
and to help out a black woman who maybe is having trouble with an obstetrician who is like giving her back talk or whatever. And
absolutely.
I don't know if that sounds, oh God, I don't want it to make it sound like the black women can't handle themselves, so we have to go with them because we're white. I don't want it to sound like that. I'm just saying
Absolutely.
that
Yeah.
support
Yes,
is always good, no matter how it comes in.
that's right.
Yeah,
And offering it as an option,
yeah,
right? It's because they can handle themselves.
they
Women
really can.
are extraordinarily strong.
Yeah.
Um, and and in the medical arena, it can really help to have somebody with you who knows the talk and
Absolutely.
knows babies and can say,
Right.
doctor, this is a little bit alarming, if the doctor's ready to dismiss something.
Then you can say, as a doula,
Hmm.
I have seen in my practice that this is not something that is ordinary, and we need to look at this. We need to get some testing done.
Right, right. And that's a slippery slope too, because in most doula trainings, we're taught to really work with the doctors and not contradict them. But I think there's a way in which we can say to our clients, like, how do you feel about this? And if they're like, that doesn't feel good, it's like, awesome. Hey, doctor, can we like talk about
We
this
talk
more?
about this.
Because from what I've seen,
Yeah.
this isn't typically ordinary,
Yeah.
right? And we can do it in a collaborative way. Um,
Yeah. And Julia, I do agree with that, but I've got this thing in my head about God complexes and
yeah.
doctors and right now presidents.
Yes.
They're not always right. I'm sorry. They may have the education, but they're biased in some areas. And this
Yeah.
may be an area that they're biased in, and it's not productive, and it's not ethical, and it's not proper.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is also a place where if we as doulas or NCSs, as an NCS, you might want to go with your client to her pediatrician
Right.
appointment. Um, but this is a place where we can be there as a witness with our clients. And if they're not being listened to, if they're being ignored, if they're being
Hmm.
dismissed, we can talk with our clients and say, I think it's time we find a different pediatrician, right? We can be that second voice of like, I see what's happening and it's not
It's
okay.
not right. Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so and I want to get some more facts in here because I think there's more, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Um, chronic stress is a piece of this as well. There is something called weathering, and it refers to the impact of chronic stress from racism and social inequalities. And that can lead to premature aging of the body and increased health risks for populations of color specifically. This stress contributes to higher rates of preterm birth and low birth weight, and an increase, which also increases infant mortality. Mhm.
Sorry about that.
Good.
And I was just going to say, and probably this is trying to stop me from saying it, but say it anyway. Julia, you and I have no idea what that's like.
That's right.
We have no clue.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't imagine being Black, being pregnant, and thinking, am I going to be one of the third that doesn't make it? I can't imagine the stress that that must put on a woman, on a family, on a community.
Yeah.
I can't imagine.
Well, and I think it's important this that because I don't want anyone to be more scared than they need to be. It's not that 3 out of 4, it's not that it's 3% higher.
3% is not, yeah, it's not what I just said. That what did I say? Three,
Am I
a
going to be
third.
1 out of 4?
Well, yeah, yeah,
Right. So
it's not that high.
it's not that. So
No,
deep breaths, everybody.
yeah,
But am I going to be a part of that 3 times higher?
yeah. Hey guys,
Uh,
this is why I have Julia. She grounds me. She keeps me where I need to be, and she catches me when I say things that are like,
you ground
"What?
me too,
Really?"
Nancy. You ground me too. You ground me too. Hmm.
So, were you done with the chronic stress? Are we
Yeah.
going
Yeah.
past that? Okay.
Yeah.
There's also infant mortality disparities.
Yeah.
So, Black infants are twice as likely to die before their first birthday. And I don't get that at all compared to a white infant. And preterm and low-term birth weights are often linked to maternal health disparities and are major contributors.
Yeah.
So,
Like
do we,
this goes beyond just adults.
yeah,
This actually spills over into the babies. Once they're born, like twice as likely to die before their first birthday, like because of neglect from the
from the
the
healthcare,
healthcare professionals.
right? Once again, we'll go back to that again.
Yeah.
You're overreacting
Yeah.
to mommy.
Yeah.
You're overreacting. It's got to be something like that. There's nothing else. But the thing is that it doesn't end there. And that's why it's called Black History Month, not pregnancy, Black maternal
Yeah.
month.
Yes.
This
Like
is Black history. This is,
yeah,
it goes on so far after that.
it does. It does. And it didn't start, it's not new. This has been going on since the 1500s when people were being brought over against their will from Africa, to the
Yeah.
United States as slaves. Um, this oppression has been like you even though even though we all have equal rights, right? I'm putting that in quotation marks
Mhm.
because we're not treated equally as citizens.
It's getting better though. I mean, if you want
It
to
is
look
getting
back
better.
in the last 10, I can look back 50 years, I can look back 70 years. I can
Yeah,
look back a long ways. And it's gotten so much better than when we had segregation and
right.
when you couldn't drink out of the same water fountain and you couldn't go to the same restroom and things, I mean, basic things like that.
Same schools.
So it's gotten better, but it needs to get even better. It needs to get
So
a
much better.
lot better. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know that there are some books that I want to recommend for anyone who's interested in this topic or wants to learn more. There's a book called, oh no, it's hard to see it.
You can't
Okay.
say it. Yeah,
Okay,
just say
that's
it.
okay. It's called Oppression and the Body: Roots, Resistance, and Resolutions. And this book just goes into the what it feels like to live in a body that is sexualized, ignored, and oppressed in the United States. And it goes into ways that people who are in bodies like this, and that includes people of color, people who are transgender, people who are women, brown, black, female, disabled, fat, queer, anyone who's shamed. Um, how do we overcome the stereotypes that go along with that and the oppression that goes along with that, the self-hate and the shame that can come from that, um, because of societal uh, pressures? And how do we, this book offers strategies and practices for embodiment
Okay.
and activism. And the next one is, it has a very triggering title, but it's called Killing the Black Body, Race, Reproduction, and the Meaning of Liberty. And this book really goes into the history of Black subjugation and all the ways in which people of color have been marginalized and abused in this country. And I think awareness is the first is the key for us
Yes,
who have not walked in those shoes. We have to be aware
I agree.
of what our, I want to say comrades, of what our other people are experiencing, so that we can be a part of the solution.
Okay, and then there is implicit bias training for healthcare providers, which we kind of talked about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah, this would, like, just educating yourself
Mhm.
as a healthcare provider about implicit bias. Like, how are you as a healthcare provider taught these little sneaky things, like they're so built into our system. It's difficult to recognize them without a training session that helps to unroot all of the misbeliefs that we're taught.
Yeah. And then the doula and the midwifery support for Black women, kind
Yeah,
of touched on that too a little bit.
yeah,
And expanding access to culturally competent care.
yeah.
And as sad as I am to say that, I don't see that happening in the next 4 years.
I know.
I'm, yeah.
Yeah,
And advocacy for policy changes addressing health care inequities.
yeah.
So those are some of the things that we can look at and we can think about and
Well, and as far
address.
as expanding access to culturally competent care, I think that there's a grassroots option. And that's where, like, videos like this and having conversations with your fellow birth and postpartum workers, like, if we can start talking about this and getting it in the minds of people who work with this at-risk population, then we as the providers can make a special effort to extend our services,
Mhm.
right? Like offering
Mhm.
discounts, offering home visits, if you're called to do that, like
Right.
whatever. I mean, of course, as NCSs and doulas, we do home visits anyway, but I think there's a grassroots way that care can be expanded.
Well,
And
and just offering your help, like what we said before, offering your help to go to the pediatrician or to the doctor with them if they feel that they are not being heard,
yeah,
or finding pediatricians or obstetricians and having a list. These
yeah,
are the ones that really will listen.
yeah,
Just a
I
real
love
simple thing
that.
to do. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Um, Nancy, thank you for talking today about this really, really important
Yeah, that
piece.
was really hard for me. And it was hard for me to do because I've got so much compassion in my heart and I don't want to cry on screen. So
Yeah,
we're not going to do that. But yeah, I thought it was something that we really needed to discuss and bring forth. And not that it isn't already discussed among all the Black people, but I think that The white people do not discuss it enough and do not get involved enough.
Yeah.
We just need
Yeah.
to get involved. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, you all have a nice day and be sure to subscribe and like us if you got anything out of this video. And even if you didn't get anything out, just go ahead and like us anyway.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Have a good
Bye-bye.
one.